Hello reader friends, and welcome back to another video. I know I say this at the beginning of pretty much every video, but we do really have a lot of fun things planned for this video because I am going to be, okay, so I don't really know. This video is technically supposed to be how many 5-star reads can I find in one video, or it might turn into a reading until I get a 5-star read, because the books that I have planned for this video, most of them are 5-star predictions, but if they end up not being 5-star, then I'm going to be turning this video into a reading until I get a 5-star. I think personally going into this video and not exactly knowing what it's going to be is kind of fun for me, but it's also kind of fun for you guys. I don't know, we're just gonna kind of go with the flow and see what happens. But the books that I have planned to read for this video are first, Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is a 5-star prediction and it is my book club's, my in-person book club's book pick for, technically I think it was May's pick, but I'm very, very late to the party and I'm reading it this week, which is the first week of June. So we have that book, and then we also have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Pretty much everybody that I know that has read this has loved this book. I'm pretty sure Ashlyn rated it 5 stars, Haley Pham rated it 5 stars, and many, many friends on my bookstagram have rated it 5 stars. So I'm very interested to see how I like it. I've been in the mood for more like kind of sci-fi books. I'm a little bit nervous because I don't like getting sad. And I don't know, I just feel like there might be a little bit of emotional distraughtness in this read. So I'm preparing myself, but I feel like it's gonna be a really fast-paced read. So I'm hoping for that. But that's another 5-star prediction. And then I also have The Bodyguard on this video's TBR. Well, okay, I shouldn't say just The Bodyguard, because I'm going to be picking between The Bodyguard and Katherine Center's new book, The Romcoms, because these are both 5-star predictions and I don't know which one I'm in the mood for. So once I get to these picks, then I'll like choose which one I want to do, or maybe I'll have Instagram choose which one I want to do. So I don't know, but these are other ones that I'm going to be picking between in this video. And then I also have Siege and Storm. This one, I don't know if it would technically be a 5-star prediction because the first book I rated, I think, a 4-star, and then this book and Ruin and Rising have a tiny bit lower ratings than the first book. So I don't know. This is more like a 4-star prediction, but it could surprise me and turn into a 5-star. I don't know. But I just thought it would be fun to add to this video's TBR as well. So those are the ones that we're going to start with. And then if I also end up wanting to add another book to this video, then I'm going to be reading Half a Soul by, I think it's Olivia Atwater. I don't know her last name. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, it's this book. And this one is a 5-star prediction for me because, I mean, not only is it like just what this book is about, but again, literally almost everybody that I've heard read this, and like all of my friends that have read this have all really, really enjoyed it, and they've said that it would probably be a 5-star prediction for me. So I'm excited. I feel like I have not had the best reading year so far. I think I've only had a couple books that I like really loved. So I'm ready to have more books read that I love. I'm pretty sure I only have like maybe 2 5-star reads for this year, and that is sad. That is so very sad. I could have more, but off the top of my head, I think I only have like 2 or 3 5-star reads for 2024, and nope, we need to change that. So with all that said, I'm going to go start Funny Story now, and I will update you guys when I have read a little bit of the way through. Does this need to be taller? Nope, that's down. Can you see my messy room in the back? We're just gonna ignore that. Oh, I just spent so many hours in the sun. But I did reapply my sunscreen at the appropriate hour, so... but I'm pretty sure my lips got a little bit red and burnt, and my retinas might be burnt, if that's a thing. I don't know, but my eyeballs are burning. But anyway, I got to about page, let's see, 84 in Funny Story. And I'm actually liking it. I'm really enjoying this, but I feel like I am reading it so ridiculously slow, and I don't know if it's just my brain. Like, I don't know if my brain is just like buffering right now and it's just not like to its full capacity of thinking, but I'm just not really like retaining very much, and I feel like I have to reread. I don't know if it's the structure of her sentences, like everything's very like fluffy and rhetorical and sarcastic, and I love that, but it's also like sometimes it's almost too much to where I like literally have to reread sentences because I'm like, wait, what are they saying? Like, I'm so confused. But it's funny, it's fun, it's cute. I didn't know it was 350 pages. No, this is like nearly a 400-page romance book, and to me that's just a little bit much, but I feel like it's going to use every page well. I don't know, like I said, I am at like the 84-page point, and like I said, I'm having a good time. It's fun, it's fluffy, I really love our characters. I honestly feel like I relate a lot to Daphne. There's just like some things that she says and just like some situations and instances like that she's been in that I just kind of relate to. And I actually love Miles as a man, as a human being. He's so funny, and I can just picture him so perfectly in my brain. I'm not the biggest fan of fake dating. I think it's kind of silly, and I don't find that it's like my favorite trope, you know? But the way that Emily Henry's doing it in this book is, I don't know, it's kind of fun and it's kind of funny. So I don't know, I'm liking it. Do I feel like it's going to be a 5-star? At the moment, I don't know. I feel like it's more of like a 4.5 maybe, but that's literally solely because I'm just not really retaining very much. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so fluffy and there's just like so many words. I don't know if that is making any sense at all, but it is, I think, like 7 o'clock now. I don't know where my phone is. Yeah, it's 7:45 now, so I'm going to spend the next couple hours reading this book, and I'm actually gonna, maybe I'll time myself to see like how long it's taking me to read, because I feel like I was reading for at least 2.5 hours and I only got 80 pages in, and that's almost 2 minutes per page. Normally it takes me about like 1.5 minutes to finish a page, so it's not taking me like much longer to read this book, but it's definitely like a lot longer than I would normally read a book. And I think also because I just read Shadow and Bone and I was like flying through that, it just feels like the pacing of like that I'm reading just feels very slow, so it's just throwing me off. But like I said, I'm going to spend the next couple hours reading this book, and then I'll update you guys when I do that. Lost my bookmark. Oh no, oh no. Where'd it go? What the heck? Oh, there it is. So I'm on page 146. I just got past chapter 13 and my mind has changed. I don't know what was wrong with my brain earlier, or maybe it was just like the conversations that they were having. It just like was not sticking in my brain. But this has gotten a lot easier on my brain to read, and I am continuing to love Daphne and Miles, and I'm so rooting for them, and I love their dynamic so much. It definitely is giving like very much New Girl vibes, and I'm loving that so much. We are getting to the part where they are kind of, how do I say this? Giving in to temptation. And I just love how like funny and awkward and how so nonchalant, I guess, like they are together. Because I feel like especially in, I don't know, like a lot of other romance books, I feel like things tend to just be very like perfect when it comes to smut and stuff like that. And I just love how it's just so silly with them. These are definitely two of my favorite characters. Besides, I think Noah and Amelia are like two of my favorite characters in a romance book. Daphne and Miles are a very close second, if not runner-up for first. I'm just really enjoying both of their characters, and this is actually the first time that I am reading Emily Henry. Like I've said in some previous videos, I did start listening to Happy Place, and I just wasn't feeling it at the time. It was a really good book, and I do want to get back to it at some point, but I just wasn't feeling it like when I was reading it. So I kind of like put that down for a little bit, and this is technically like the first Emily Henry book that I'm actually like physically reading, and I'm having a great time. It is getting late. It's about like 9:30 9:45 right now, so I do need to like get ready for bed and start winding down for the night here pretty soon. So I'm gonna try and get to page, I'm on, what did I say, 146, so I'm gonna probably try and get to at least, I don't know, chapter like 15? Well, maybe not. These chapters are kind of getting long. Oh yeah, I can make it to chapter 15 probably. I just finished Funny Story and I am unwell. This book was so good. It was so good. I freaking love Miles and Daphne so much. And we have our first 5-star book of this video, which apparently is now turning into a how many 5-star reads can I find in one video instead of reading until I find a 5-star, because we found a 5-star. Okay, I literally wrote notes because I feel like every single time I read a book, I always forget like why I liked it, my thoughts about it. Like I just forget literally everything, and I forget that words even exist. So I wanted to write down some notes. First of all, I said that I really love the way that Emily Henry makes it so light and funny, but also deep and realistic. This book, I was giggling, I was kicking my feet, I was laughing, I was having a good time, and then I was also like so invested because it just felt so deep and so real and so raw. And I was like, to be able to write a book with such a balance, such a beautiful balance of those two things. Ugh. I also said I feel like I'm actually getting to know real people. Like this isn't just a fluffy like fictional romance. Like it actually has depth, and these characters just feel so real. Like it literally felt like I was just like getting to know real people. It didn't really feel like there were some things where I was like, okay, this would literally never happen in real life. Like never would it happen to where you got an invitation to their wedding, to your ex's wedding, that they left you for each other. Like that, no, like that just would never happen. So aside from like a few of those like a little bit unrealistic instances, like this book was just so real. And I also feel like I related so much to these characters, and for all of those reasons I just loved this book so much. Like I said, this is my first like technical Emily Henry book that I've like physically read, and from reviews that I've read about like her other books, I feel like this is a common thing that is said about her books, is that they are very real, and just like it just has that beautiful balance of being funny but also being very deep. And normally like I don't like getting emotional in romance books, especially when they're supposed to be like funny fluffy rom-coms, but there was just something, like I literally started highlighting things in this book because I just felt like they were just hitting my soul so deep. There was a few spots that I highlighted, and one specifically is they are like in his truck and they're like talking, and this is like when Miles is finally opening up to Daphne, and he goes, "I don't want you to look at me like I'm broken." She says, "You're not broken, you're okay, but what happened to you isn't, it's effed up." And he says, "It's over." And she says, "That doesn't mean you can't still have feelings about it." And that just like I really want to cry just thinking about it, because there's been so many instances like in my life where I'm like, this is over, like it's happened, whatever, like I should be over it, I'm fine. And I'm actually not fine, and like I was just so craving for someone to tell me that it was okay to like still have feelings about something because it was messed up. And so I don't know, just like that whole conversation, and there was just like so many conversations that they had together in this book that just like literally hit home, and I was just, oh, I literally sobbed. I sobbed at this part. I don't know what else to say about it other than I was like so torn apart and so invested and so happy and giddy. And I also love the way that she incorporates like the love of books into her characters. And I feel like that's a common thing with her other books, because like as I was thinking about it, I'm like, first of all, book lovers, and then also beach read that is about two authors. So like I don't know if people we meet on vacation is about like bookish people, but I feel like all of her books, or at least most of them, revolve around like bookish people, and I feel like that also just like adds another very like personal element to it, because obviously we are people who love books. So like the way that she talked about the library and her love for her job, it genuinely tugged on my heartstrings so much. I'm just so happy that this lived up to my expectations. So now that that is sadly over, I do need to pick out my next 5-star prediction read that I'm going to be reading in this video. So in front of me I have Red Rising and Siege and Storm. I don't know which one I want to read right now. I think I'm going to pick up Red Rising, but I also really just want to knock out Siege and Storm because I know I'm going to read this like super fast. They're both about 400 pages. This one, I will say though, has a lot smaller font, so I feel like I'm going to be reading this one a little bit slower than I am this one. Right now it's like 10 p.m. If I look disheveled, it's because I am. It's been a really weird 24 hours because last night I woke up in the middle of the night so sick. Like I just felt so nauseous, and I had such a bad migraine, and it was just a relapse in my health, which freaking sucks, but it's okay. We are pushing through. I totally lost my train of thought in what I was talking about. But anyway, like I said, yeah, it's 10 p.m. and I really need to go to bed. So I'm gonna think about which book I want to start, and then I will be starting it tomorrow. So I ended up actually going with Siege and Storm for now. I tried to pick up Red Rising, and I was reading like the first 20 pages, and I know that this book is going to be so good, but I really just don't have the brain power right now to be going into a book that does absolutely no world building from the beginning. Like I started reading this book and they're already throwing around like so many terms and just talking about things that I don't even know what they are, and I understand that like they are going to explain what everything is like kind of throughout the book, but it's like my brain right now, the way that it's operating is that like I need to understand what I'm reading when I'm reading it and not later. So this was just like not working for me right now. So I picked up Siege and Storm instead, and as always I'm flying through it. So I think I'm just going to read this, and then after I read this I'm going to pick this up. But for Siege and Storm I'm on page 120 and I'm actually really enjoying it. I know that this book, a lot of people say that they really liked Shadow and Bone, the first book, but then the second and third books they didn't like as much. So I was really curious if I was going to feel the same way. And so far I don't necessarily. I feel like I like it just as much as the first one. Although I do feel like kind of the same thing how I felt in Shadow and Bone. I feel like things are happening very quickly. So if a lot of things have happened in the first 100 pages, I'm a little bit nervous to go into the next 300 pages because is it going to be one of those things where like a lot happens at the beginning and then it like slows down a lot and the pacing just gets really hard to get through later on, which I'm hoping is not the case. So far though, I think I still stand with my previous rating prediction of a 4-star. Right now it definitely has the potential to become a 5-star, but it would really have to continue this like really fast pacing, and it would have to have a little bit more depth and problem solving, I guess, in order for it to be a 5-star. So I'm not betting that it's going to be a 5-star, but I'm hoping that it could be at least a 4 or a 4.5. I don't know, we'll see, but I'm gonna keep reading it and hopefully get at least another 100 pages, if not more, in tonight. Hello friends, so I actually finished Siege and Storm. I really did not film like any of my reading experience throughout this book, but that's because I feel like it just wasn't a super interesting book to like film me reading through, because it's like a really old series, which I'm sure a lot of people have already read, but also this is the second book in the series, so I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't as interesting to go through because it wasn't like my first experience with the series, and I can't really talk about a whole lot without like spoiling things that happened in the first book, so I just didn't really film that much, but I do have a lot to say about it. First off, I think I'm going to rate this one a 3.5. So first of all, going into it, I didn't know what to expect because the first book I didn't totally love, but I enjoyed. I gave it a 4-star, and I've read a lot of reviews that say that the first book is pretty much the best in the series and that the second and third books just aren't really as good. But I've also heard from some other of my like bookstagram friends that they enjoyed this series, so I was kind of just like conflicted and I just didn't really know how I was going to feel about the rest of the series. So going into this, I thought it was going to maybe be at least like a 3.75 or a 4, hopefully. I had like the slightest hope that it would be a 5-star, but the hope was there. Like it was there and I was hoping that it would be a 5-star, but unfortunately it just was not. And a couple reasons for that is first, so this book is about 430-ish pages. So the whole first maybe like 100 pages were very like fun, fast-paced. I love the vibes, the characters, because we actually get introduced to quite a few new characters and I really enjoyed them. And in that first 100 pages, there is stuff that happens that I was like, oh wow, like that happened pretty quick. Like I wasn't expecting this to happen. And what did happen, I feel like again was kind of rushed through. Here's the thing with the writing in these books. I feel like a lot of times, especially with like longer books or really just anything above like 300, 400 pages, I feel like sometimes they go a little bit too much into detail. But in this book, I almost feel like it was the opposite. Like in this whole series, I feel like it's just surface level type of stuff, which I love and hate both simultaneously. I really enjoy how digestible and how quickly I can get through these books. I love that things are kind of surface level and like easy to understand and easy to get through. But then again, I also feel like it's lacking a lot of depth. So like it's nice because I literally just like plow through these books, but at the same time, I feel like that depth is missing to where like I don't really get as invested into the story as I feel like I could be. So after the first 100 pages or so, the next about 250 pages were just very slow and it was really anticlimactic, and I just feel like we were kind of just in this waiting period of like something to happen. Like something happened at the beginning and then the entire like 250 page middle was just like waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen, and then in the last like 50 or so pages like stuff exploded and it was fast paced again, but even that didn't justify having that big of a slow period in the middle. Like what happened at the end was a little bit anticlimactic as well. Like it was intense, but it was like, I don't know, I just felt like I got a little bit confused and I just didn't really understand like the point of it all. But although those middle like 250 pages were extremely slow and very like not action filled, I did have a really good time learning about the characters more, seeing like their interactions and relationships, and that like there was still things that I really enjoyed about those really slow 250 pages. It's like one of those books where like yes, it's really slow, but you're also like not necessarily having a bad time, you know? That's how I felt like through this book. Like I didn't have a great time and I wasn't nearly as impressed with this book as I thought I was going to be, but I wasn't necessarily like bored either. You know, like I said before, I really enjoyed the new characters that were introduced in this book, especially, is it Sturmhond, I think? I don't really know like how to say their names, but I loved his character so much. And I think it's Tamara and Tulia. I also could be saying those wrong, but I really enjoyed just all those characters. And this book felt very like summery, Pirates of the Caribbean, like that type of deal. And that I feel like was just a perfect vibe for me right now because we are kind of entering summer here soon, and I have just been really craving like the at-sea pirates, ships, like fantasy, that kind of vibe. So this was definitely like still a fun read. It was just very like anticlimactic and it was just very underwhelming, but still I didn't have a bad time. So I'm giving it 3.5, 3.75. Now that that's over though, I need to pick my next book. So right now it's between Katherine Center's 2 books, The Bodyguard and The Romcoms, or Half a Soul. I don't really know what I'm in the mood for right now. I feel like this year I'm kind of just in like my fantasy era. I feel like so far I've read mostly fantasies. So I kind of want to pick up Half a Soul first. Since I did just read a rom-com, Emily Henry's funny story book. I kind of want to like read something else before I read another rom-com, just to like chop it up, you know? I don't know. How many pages? Okay, we're gonna see how many pages each book is. I believe Half a Soul is only 300 pages, and both of these books are nearly the same. Yeah, they all literally have like nearly the same page number. Oh, do I want a fantasy or do I want a rom-com? Fantasy or rom-com? I think I'm going to read Half a Soul. I'm gonna start it tonight. I don't have the physical copy, but I do have it on my Kindle. And I think it's so funny. I go through phases where I'm like either reading only physical copies or I'm only reading on my Kindle. And right now I'm like entering into my Kindle time period. So I'm gonna start that right now. And as always, I will update you guys when I read a little bit of the way through. So I'm now on page, I think roughly 100. I'm on page 96 of Half a Soul. And so far I am loving this book. I am a little bit confused about like the world and the magic system in this book because I feel like it's kind of just casually talked about and it's like there's not a whole lot of like world building, so to say. Like if I had never read a fantasy book and if I didn't know anything about like the fairy world and stuff, I feel like I'd be very lost in this story right now. But because I am like familiar with the like fairy realm and just fairies in general from reading fantasy, I am kind of just like picking up on things. At first, I was a little bit skeptical as to like if I would like Dora's character, our main character, because since she is just like void of most of her emotions, I feel like that just makes her a very like dull character. But now that I am on page roughly 100, I feel like there is some depth to her. It's just lost. Like it's kind of there and like she knows that it's kind of there, but it's just like muted and it's fuzzy. So I don't know, but like she's growing on me for sure. And then we have our other character, Elias, that is the Lord Sorcerer, and he is just a super grumpy, improper a-hole of a man, but in like the funniest way. So he's like extremely impolite and improper just because he is. And then Dora is missing half of her soul, so she just doesn't really know what the right thing is to say. She doesn't really like know what is proper. Like she knows what's proper, but because she doesn't have those emotions, like she doesn't really experience like embarrassment or like sadness or like things like that. So when they start to have conversations, it's the funniest thing, and I enjoy their, I don't know if it would be called banter, but like I just enjoy their interactions so much. Since I am about a third of the way into the story, I feel like things are starting to like move along because it is kind of a slower read. It's more of like a slower cozy fantasy kind of, and with those I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to get into because it is slow. But because the conversations and just like the characters were so funny and just like entertaining to read about, I like, yes, it is kind of a slow story, but I'm just having a great time with it. I definitely think that this has the potential to become a 5-star read for me, but I also don't know because of the like lack of world building and just lack of like explanation and just like the lack of detail in this story. I feel like sometimes it is kind of hard to follow because of that, but I don't know. It's cozy, it's fun, it's humorous. Like I have literally been giggling throughout this entire like 100 pages that I've read. And then also you're kind of seeing Elias like soften up, and you're understanding why he is such a hard man, and that is very like, it tugs on my heartstrings a little bit. So I can definitely see this book being kind of emotional. So I don't know. Right now, like if I were to rate it as to like what I'm feeling right now, maybe like a 4.25, but I definitely see the potential of it being a 5-star. The plot itself, I feel like, is there, but it's not like super strong. I mean, what's happened so far pretty much is Dora and Elias have met. Elias is kind of trying to figure out how to fix Dora and like and kind of like diagnose Dora as to like what's going on, because they didn't even really understand that she lost half of her soul. So now we're just trying to kind of figure out how to fix it and how to get it back. I also am kind of enjoying how, so this is set in, is it the Regency or Victoria? I don't know like exactly what, I'm trying to find my phone. Oh, it's literally in my lap. Regency fantasy romance novel. Okay, so it is like that very older times vibe. Like back when everyone had to be very like prim and proper, you couldn't be unchaperoned, all that fun jazz. So I just love seeing how Dora and Elias both kind of just like throw caution to the wind sometimes, I guess I would say. Like they just go kind of against like what society says should be normal, you know? And I love in Regency books when our main characters do that, when they just kind of like rebel against society and societal norms. So that's also really fun to see. And I think that adds a lot of like the humor into it as well. I'm gonna try and binge as much of this book as I possibly can tonight because like I said, I'm having a great time. I did not expect to cry in this book. I'm not much farther than I was when I last updated you guys, but I'm on page 136, so I'm 48% of the way through. So there's like some plague that is affecting like a lot of the children that are in workhouses, which I didn't even know exactly what that was, but I think it's just like where, like, not like factories, but just where like the very like poor and people that are not of titles like find work, I guess. I don't really know. But anyway, there's like a bunch of children that are getting this certain plague, and these characters are like going and doing like charitable acts and like helping people in the workhouses that are like really sick and stuff, and they're just talking a lot about like the injustice of it all and how Elias like really wants to help these children, and he's trying to find like a cure for this plague. And he like comes to this dinner and he pretty much says like how can I sit here and like have a nice dinner with like all this abundance when people are starving. And it's just like, I don't know, the way that he's talking and just the way that he is just like getting broken down character wise, like with his emotions and just what he's going through, and oh my gosh, it's just like my heart. There was one quote. It's like one of the Viscount's wife or something, and she's usually like super prim and proper. And she pretty much says like, I think the reason that all of us feel so alone is because we've had to be so like proper. And it just like makes me so sad because like this was actually like a real era of time. I don't know, this book is just like it becoming so emotional, but like in such a beautiful way. And I mean, I expected it to be kind of emotional, but I did not expect it to be like this heart-wrenching, but again, not in a bad way, in a way that just makes you really like think and feel, and like it's just in a very beautiful way, and that's like the only way that I can describe it. Oh my gosh. Oh. I'm not okay. I'm unwell. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. I don't know how I'm gonna finish this book. Oh my, like, I'm only 50%. I'm not even 50% through. This may become my new, like, favorite book of all time. Not even kidding. Hello, friends. I finished Half a Soul last night. And I genuinely am just not okay. I'm not okay. This book, wow. I have not a ton to say, but I do definitely want to go into detail in my review of this book. So first of all, let's talk ratings. I think this was really hard. This was a very hard decision because and like you'll understand why in a minute, but I think I'm going to rate this a 4.75. I don't know. I'm like bordering 4.75 and 5-star because there's just like, I loved so much about this book, but there was also some things that I was like, about, and I feel like if it's a 5-star book, there's just very, very little that I don't like about it. And in this book, there was very little that I didn't like about it, but one of the things that I didn't like about it was like one of the main things that I kind of take into consideration when rating books. So going into the review and why I chose that rating, first of all, I have my notes here so I can actually remember what I wanted to say. The characters really grew on me, first of all. So at the beginning, I kind of mentioned how Dora, or Theodora, whatever you want to call her, she is obviously living with half a soul. And so that made her, at first, it made her kind of a dull character, so it was really hard to like really like her because they're just like, it felt like there wasn't very much depth to her, and that obviously changed throughout the book. Also, my friend Liv, she mentioned how the author had like a note, like a review, but she didn't actually put like a star rating on her book, but she like reviewed her book, and in that she went through a lot of different points, like some fun facts about the book, some fun facts about like the Regency era, some not fun facts about the Regency era. So she just went into like detail on some like background of her writing this book, I guess. And so Theodora's half a soul is actually a metaphor for like neurodivergence. So like ADHD, autism, those kinds of things, which I 100% saw from the beginning. Like I was going to say she reminds me of someone like on the spectrum just because of the way like her emotions worked. When I thought that, and when I learned that as well, it kind of gave a new perspective to Dora's character. And then throughout the book, I feel like it was so sweet to see her with half a soul like find her own like ways that she experienced emotions. And like just because that wasn't exactly how like everybody else experienced it, that doesn't mean that like she wasn't feeling things, you know? So that was all just very, very sweet to see. And it was very sweet to see the way that kind of like progressed and her character development like throughout this book. And then Elias, which is the Lord Sorcerer, at the beginning of the book, he's just a very like a-hole, stubborn, very improper, impolite man. And it's so funny just because of like the era that they're in. But also throughout the book, you kind of like start to understand why he is the way he is. And like my heart genuinely broke for this man, and just all like what he said and how he felt and the reasons that he had behind being like how he was. It was so beautiful also seeing like his character development and just the way that he kind of got broken down in like the best way. This book for me also has become a comfort read, I think. This book was so cozy. It was one of those books where like it just pulled out so many emotions in me, but like in the best way possible. Like, you know, when something doesn't necessarily make you like super sad, but you're still like you're crying because it's just so beautiful and profound. And that's just like how I felt throughout this book, is that I was obviously like sad at some points because there is very like heartbreaking things that happen in this book, but it wasn't like I was depressed. It was more just like the way that the characters were kind of reacting to the things around them, and just some of the quotes that were said, and like all that was just so beautiful to me. And I've never highlighted so much on my Kindle in one book in my entire life. I think it was like 28 highlights, and some of those were like an entire page worth of like a highlight. The pacing was a little bit slow, but I was never bored. And I didn't realize that this book was only 250 pages. So it's a very short read. It's a very easy read because it's shorter, but because it is kind of slower, I can understand why people might not enjoy it as much, because they're like the plot itself, and this is where I kind of had an issue with this book, is because plot itself was not super strong, and it was kind of confusing, and it was kind of lacking a lot of detail that I feel like would have been necessary to like follow a really strong plot, you know? So that's why it's not a 5 stars, just because of that, like the weird plot issues. Because I feel like if I'm gonna rate a book 5 stars, it has to hit a certain like threshold in different categories. Like like the pacing is one of them, the plot is one of them, and the characters are another one that I find like very, very important. And although, like I said, the pacing was slow, it was still, like, I was never bored, and I was very intrigued, like, throughout the whole book, so that was, like, 5 star. Characters, 5-star because I just loved the development and I ended up like falling in love with them as well together. But the plot is where it just like really lacked, I feel like, some explanation, and I don't know, it just wasn't like a 5-star plot, you know? So that's why I felt like I couldn't really justify giving it a 5-star, but like in my brain it's a 5-star. Logistically, it's a 4.75. I don't know if that really makes sense, but in my brain it does. So it triggered so many emotions. It made me think about so many things. It was a beautiful story. The characters were so sweet, and it just felt so like just cozy and warm, like a hug. That's what it felt like. Something I also really enjoyed about this book is how parallel it was to like things that happen in our world. I'm just gonna read a few quotes because they literally just made me sob. So there's this one that says, "There is such a thing as evil in this world. It does not help to look away from it. It does not even help necessarily to look at it. But sometimes when you cannot force the world to come to its senses, you must settle only for wiping away some of the small evils in front of you." And that was like a big point in this book, was like so many huge like injustices going on, and one of our characters just felt so hopeless because they were like, I'm trying everything that I can and it's still not enough. And so they kind of had this mindset where like you might not be able to help the entire world, but there is like little things within your circle that you can tackle, like little evils within your own line of sight, I guess, that you can make better. And I just like, that just made me think so much because it's so true. There's another one that made me, it just tugged on my heartstrings. You know, Dora, I have known many human beings with a full soul to their name who do not have half so much compassion or practicality as you. On a poor day, I might assume this to be a kind of indictment of the human soul. But today I believe that you might simply have an overabundance of both qualities. And that I just felt like, was so sweet. And it goes back to what I said of how like just because she didn't think and feel like everybody else didn't mean that she didn't think and feel, you know, like she had those qualities but in her own way. So like I said, I finished that last night, and I didn't realize that it was only 250 pages. So like by the time I got to the end of it, I was like on my Kindle like trying to go to the next page because I was like, wait, it's already over? So I finished that like pretty early in the day. So I ended up picking up The Bodyguard by Katherine Center. I was going to do the rom-commers, but I kind of wanted to save that one for the end of the month. And I kind of wanted to read Katherine Center's like older writing before I got into her new writing. Not that it really matters, but I just like to, sometimes I like to kind of compare like when authors have, not like old books, but I just like to read their older writings first and to see maybe how their like writing develops or how it's changed. Because I read Happiness for Beginners already. But anyway, yeah, so I just picked up this one first. And I got to chapter 9, I believe. Nope, I'm way past that. I was listening to it on audiobook, like kind of at work today. So I'm actually on chapter 14, which is page 129. I don't know where my bookmark, I literally just have my bookmark. Why do I always lose it? Oh, it's literally still in the book. So I'm about halfway through The Bodyguard by Katherine Center, and so far, I mean, I'm enjoying it for sure. It's not my favorite, to be completely honest. I don't know what it is about this book. Like, I like the characters, and I like the concept. I just don't think that the way it's being executed is my favorite so far. I can definitely see it getting a lot better though. I think I'm slightly comparing it to When in Rome, because that one's also like a really famous person and a really not famous person. And I absolutely loved When in Rome. So yeah, I think I'm just maybe comparing a little bit subconsciously. I think we also just haven't had a whole lot of, would it be character like build up? Like we know of some things that are happening in both our characters' lives, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we haven't really been introduced a lot to like personalities, I guess I would say. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you what it is that I don't quite love about this book. Right now though, I mean, it's giving like 4-star vibes, but I feel like with Katherine Center, things tend to kind of get deeper towards like the middle and like the 70% point-ish. So I feel like I just have to get to that point, and then I will probably feel like a lot more connected to the characters and their stories, you know? It is pretty funny. Like I have chuckled quite a bit, but I feel like with these two characters specifically, in my brain it's almost kind of bordering on like slightly annoying and funny. You know, like it's humorous, it's entertaining, but it's also kind of like, this is just kind of eh. Maybe it's their chemistry. Is that it? I feel like they just don't have any chemistry at all. Like, they kind of like giggle and make fun of each other, and that's always funny, I guess, but like, I don't know, they don't feel like they really fit, you know? Versus like in When in Rome with Amelia and Noah, I felt like they were kind of like annoying each other and irritating each other, but it was in like a funny way where I like understood their chemistry, you know? And it's just, yeah, not really like that with this book yet, but I am only on page 130, so I can definitely see them growing on me more, but as of right now, yeah, I don't know, I'm skeptical, but still enjoying it. So I'm gonna read hopefully another 100 pages or so tonight, and I'll update you guys later. I feel like every time I've gone to film, I literally look like I just rolled out of bed. And technically, most of the time I have, but I just lately have not had the desire and the energy to like get ready lately. So my sincerest apologies for my lack of presentational effort. Is that the right word? But anyway, I actually just finished Katherine Center's The Bodyguard, and I have some unfortunate news. Well, okay, I don't know actually, because I liked this book, but I also like didn't love it, you know? So I think I'm rating it like a 3.75. First of all, like from the beginning, going into it, I felt like I just didn't really connect with our main character that much. Like I liked her, but she definitely wasn't like my favorite main character, you know? And then kind of just like going throughout the story, I didn't feel like I really understood the chemistry between Jack and Hannah. I felt like they did have some cute banter, and I feel like they did have some fun moments, but overall, I just was a little bit underwhelmed, I guess. I just didn't feel like I ever really connected to these characters. I was right though, how I said that in like Katherine Center fashion, there obviously is like a more like deeper side to our characters, and I feel like we definitely saw a lot more of that in the like 60 and on percent point. Like we definitely see Jack start to open up, and we definitely see some character development of Hannah. I will say it was extremely adorable seeing Hannah bond with Jack's family, especially after just losing her mom. I definitely still agree with what I said about how I feel like I was kind of comparing this book to When in Rome, just because like the concept was the same. Kind of. It wasn't like fake dating in front of your family, but it was like the whole really famous person and a really not famous person. There was some parts of this book that I just felt like were very annoying drama and just kind of like cringy, I guess. Like there's some drama between Hannah, her ex-boyfriend, and her best friend that are just, it's just, I don't know, like it just feels so childish and just kind of like annoying and petty. And then towards the end of the book, there's this character who is also famous, and there was just one scene where I was like cringing the entire time because it was just so awkward and petty, and I was like, are we in high school? Like, what is this? Now I'm very interested to see like how I'm going to like the rom-commers. I feel like I'll probably like that one better because it's a different concept. I think that just like the concept of this book and the way that it was executed was just not my favorite. Overall though, like I said, I am gonna give it a 3.75 because I still like had a good time and I still liked the characters. It just wasn't my favorite, you know? So this video was kind of surprising but also kind of unsurprising. I definitely expected to have a higher rating for The Bodyguard and Siege and Storm, but I at least did get 2 new favorite books out of this video. Technically, I did get 2 5 stars because Half a Soul, like I said, in my brain it's a 5-star, but like logistically I think I would have to give it like a 4.75. But still, to have at least 2 nearly 5-star books in one video is a win in my brain. I did want to add another book to this video because I am starting The Housemaid is Watching tonight, and I just have a feeling that might be another like 4.5 or above. But I also wanted to get this video edited and posted like in the next couple days, and I kind of wanted to take my time. Well, I'll honestly probably binge The Housemaid is Watching, but I just kind of wanted to enjoy that one for myself, you know, and then maybe I'll talk about it in my reading wrap up at the end of the month. Either way though, you will know my thoughts about it in a couple weeks. As for this video though, that is the end. So little recap, Emily Henry's Funny Story was a 5-star. Oh, so fun, so cute. I had such a good time with that one. Siege and Storm was definitely a letdown, but I still like flew through it and feel like I still kind of had a good time with it. So I think I give that one, I think I said a 3.75, but I think I'm gonna do more a 3.5. That just feels better in my brain. And then our last one, The Bodyguard, which is a 3.75. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your weekend. I love you all so ridiculously much, and I will see you in my next video, which is going to be very fun because I'm going out of town this weekend to meet up with my booktuber friends, and we're going to make a little video together, kind of. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah!